It's about to go down with Marc and Cathey, a live coaching show about dropping ideas. Marc and Cathey coach and have conversations with brilliant idea creators who are reimagining the world through the expression of their words, thoughts, and action.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of It's About to Go Down. I am Marc Williams.
I'm Cathey Armillas, and we have Margarita Estrada with us today. She's the queen. I'm saying it, Marc. She's the queen and creator of the 360-degree employer-employee model. And Margarita is going to talk to us about that today. This is her idea. It's her business. It's her work. It's her everything. So we're going to chat with Margarita about this as not only a model, but an idea. So Margarita, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Cathey, and thank you, Marc, for allowing me to be part of your platform. I do appreciate your presence and my presence in your program. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So Margarita, tell us a little bit about this. Marc and I know a tiny bit, but as everybody knows, we always save our great conversations for here. So Margarita, I'd love to hear a little bit more about the background of how you started it, why you started it, and what's it's all about so that we can chat about it as an idea.
Sure. Well, for many years when I worked in New York City, I used to work in HR and I used to work in benefits. And the one thing that I came to realize is that employers and employees kept on looking at each other as a them and us relationship, either way. And I felt that, they need to look at each other as 360-degree entities going towards the same direction and being part of the same team. Now, in 2019, Gallup did a poll right before the pandemic, and they found that 80% of employees globally and 75% nationally are disengaged employees to the cost of $360 billion. So this is a huge problem. So it's not only costing the employers, but it's costing the employees too. It's costing them frustration, emptiness, anger, and resentment. And when that happens to the employee, of course, again, it's going to decrease their bottom line as well, right? So it's affecting both of them financially, emotionally, and mentally. And I felt that there has to be a way that we could bring these entities together so that they could see each other as 360 holistic people, and so that they could realize that, we're part of the same team here and we need to come together. So that is my emphasis. It is my passion. I feel that otherwise the cost will be enormous. And now with AI taking over, even that much more is it important for employers and employees to come together.
Oh, there's been so much talk about the AI. And I know you didn't necessarily come here to talk about AI, but if you could just elaborate on that just for a little bit, how is AI affecting this mission to create a 360-degree model?
Well, I think employees are very fearful of AI. They feel that machines are taking over. And so it's creating a vacuum between employers and employees right now. The fear is palpable. And there are so many articles, especially when you go to the SHRM website, you can see all the articles about AI and how employees are feeling. And they're wondering, how long am I going to last in this job? What if I don't know anything about AI? What is my value for this company that I'm going to work for? So it's a huge fear. And that just adds to my mission as well, to bring these entities together so that employers can make employees feel that, you don't have to fear your job. You just need more training. So employees need to be trained up, right? As opposed to, bringing on new people, they just need to be trained up, right? So that then this way they could become contributors, right?
Margarita, I love this idea. I'd love to kind of, because you already, sometimes people come onto our show and, we're talking about an idea that they're just exploring, but you're living this idea already. You've already created this. So I would love to go a little bit deeper and find out a little bit more. So tell me, what are some of the first things that you do when you engage with a company where you're trying to bring everybody together and get them on the same page and heading the same direction?
Okay, so prior to my visiting a company, I researched their website. That's the first thing that I do. I looked to see, well, what is their connection with their employees? What is their commitment? And what other pictures are they using? Are they using pictures of actual employees, or are they using stock photos?
Yeah.
Because if they're using stock photos, it's an indicator that something's up, right?
Yeah. No real humans here.
There's no real humans here. So are they using actual employees? I look at their social media. I see whether their employees whether their videos of their employees saying how great, how much they love working for the company, how much it has helped them grow as an individual, and how happy they are to work there. Right. So those are the things that I look for. I also look for the differences between, well, what's on their corporate site and what's on their local site, right? Because the corporate site should be reflective of the local site. And if it's not, there is a problem as well. So once I have all that information, then I go and give my workshop. And after I go through the workshop, at the end, I test the employees. Okay, how much do you know about X company? So I put details about, because it's important for employees to know something about their company. You just can't work for a company and not know anything about it, right? So it's important to know about the company. What are their initiatives, right? What are they up to next, and how can they contribute to it? And employers need to know about their employees. Well, who is the employee here that can help my vision become a reality, right? And am I affirming and I'm nurturing them? What attitudes are going on? So without giving away all the full details, so this is what I do. I like to make sure that there is a blend, and if there's not a blend, how do we address it?
Marc, I think you remember we had a conversation with Margarita before, and one thing that I think you and I both really liked was that Margarita said, a lot of things that we hear nowadays is like the companies need to step up and be good to their employees, which is true. And I think you said that's very true. But also at the same time that the employees need to step up as well. And so I really like that. And I just I heard that come through again. It's like, I love that you're quizzing them to see if they even know facts that they could find publicly on the website. You're trying to see how engaged they might be and what they might know. But Marc, I'm curious what you thought about that, because I thought that was a unique spin.
Yeah, well, here's why it stands out to me, because I'm thinking about some trainings that I've been to recently where everything seems to be a focus on what the employer needs to do differently to get us connected. Like everything just falls on it, right? I'm here to do my job. You got to make things better. And that's a very interesting thing, because my experience has been that a lot of employees don't feel empowered enough to make any kind of change, right? They feel like they're just really a cog in the machine, or people are not listening to their ideas. And I'm very curious about how, even beyond asking them what they know about the company and what they can contribute, beyond that point, how are you empowering employees to contribute to their companies and organizations in ways that they may not believe that they can?
Yeah, the employees need to feel safe, right? They need to be able to express their opinion without fear of losing their job, without fear of losing a promotion, and without being shut down. Many times when I worked in HR, I saw employees being shut down with their ideas. Oh, it's not good enough, or depending on the level of the employee. And it reminds me of a story that I have to share with you. I don't know if you remember, years ago, that a truck got stuck in the Holland Tunnel and they couldn't get it through. And so there's a father with his son. And he says, Dad, just tell them that all they have to do is deflate the tires. And they can, and they can get the truck out of the tunnel, right? So sometimes the person that does not have the MBA or does not have the PhD can come up with a solution, right? So all the titles are nice, but common sense also counts.
Yeah.
But each employee needs to be valued accordingly. Who's to say that a person who's an admin cannot come up with a great idea, right? So it's important to provide an atmosphere where the employees are not afraid to express their opinion. And that begins at the moment that their onboarding process, right? So when the employees are onboarded into the company and then the benefits are explained to them, at that point, they should be told, look, we welcome you expressing your opinions, your ideas, your creativity, because an employer that is afraid of creativity of an employee, that's a problem. So I think it was in 2017, Hino, which is the branch from Toyota that makes their trucks. So they were fudging their numbers with the emissions, right? For years, they were fudging their numbers, like I would say 5 to 7 years, they were fudging their numbers. And the reason why their president said that they were fudging their numbers is because they felt that the employees had to go for quantity instead of quality. Mm-hmm. So that's why they were fudging their numbers. And so that pressure of having to create and make so many trucks that they had to fudge their numbers as far as the emissions, right? Mm. So they were afraid to express what was going on. So as an employer, you need to provide that atmosphere that you're able to express your opinion, you're able to express your creativity without fear of being shut down, right? And so that starts on onboarding. And once they're in the onboarding, it starts with having that mentorship, right? So it goes from onboarding to mentorship to how after work activities. It's a process so it has to be shown from the beginning all the way to whatever time that employee works for the company, whether it's 1 year, 5 years, or 15 years, right?
Margarita, you can help me out with something here, because sure. I'm going to go back to some trainings that I've been a part of for employees.
Okay.
Because I hear the value in what you're saying in terms of the employer needs to set up the onboarding and create a safe environment. And I'm wondering, when you take the employers out of the room, you take the supervisors out of the room, you take the managers out of the room, and now you're doing this for the employees.
Okay.
The employees are ready. They're ready to say, that sounds great, but they don't make us feel safe. That sounds great, but they don't value our opinion. That sounds great, but they're not listening to us. How do you take this 360-degree model and empower the employees? Like, what's your message to the employees?
Okay, first, the important thing is to de-escalate the anger. Mm-hmm. Right? You have to de-escalate the anger, because sometimes when anger gets in the way, things just don't make sense. Mm-hmm. So the anger has to be de-escalated. And then you have to look at, okay, what are the parts that you're dissatisfied with, right? Is it the long working hours? Is it because your ideas are not respected? Is it because you're not seen as a holistic person? So I'll give you an example. So I spoke to a woman, she's the president of a construction company. And she tells me, nowadays, when young guys come to work for my company, they're so lazy, they're always like, we had this one guy who was always like sleeping at lunchtime. And so I asked her, I said, was he an excellent performer before? She said, yes. So I said, have you taken the time to ask him why? Have you taken the time to find out what's going on in that person's life? She said, no. I said, I think you should. You would be surprised. I said, if you ask what's going on, not only will they appreciate it, they will go from that 180 degree to a 360 degree employee, because they will appreciate the fact that you cared enough to find out what in the world was going on, right?
Yeah.
Right, because most of the time, they're expected to perform. That's why sometimes employees are so stressed out, right? Because they're considered as machines to perform.
Mhm.
But what if you looked at your employees as a 360 degree entity with all of their complexities? They have their home issues, their kid might have cancer, their mother might, who knows what's going on in their personal life. But if they don't take time to find out, then that employee might have been a good performer, but guess what? He goes to the 180 degree section because he's not being considered, or she's not being considered and cared for, right? So
Mhm.
I will look at what is going on in their personal life, because what's happening in the personal life, it trickles down
Yeah.
to what happens at work. It affects everybody, right? It affects everybody all across the board. So that's what I would do. I would say, okay, what is going on in your personal life? Has your manager asked you what is happening in your personal life? And if they tell me no, that's a clear indicator of where the anger comes, right? Because if you're not looked at as a whole person, as opposed to a machine, well, guess what? If you're only going to cooperate just what the employee description described, right? But you're not going to do anything else because you're going to be taken advantage of, you're not going to be respected, and you're not going to be listened to, and your creativity is not going to be welcomed. Right?
I have an idea. I have a thought. Because when you were talking about creativity, Margarita, it made me think about something, and then you just solidified it in my mind. You know, Mark knows me very well. I'm definitely the queen of concepts, and you already have a concept in this like 360, and it already brings a visual immediately, I think, and it's awesome. But then the TED coach in me also goes, how is this idea different from what we've heard in the past, right? And so my brain is always going to the like, okay, let's take a topic that people already talk about. Let's have an idea with it. And then let's have Margarita's very specific idea, which makes you the queen of it, right? Not just the creator, but the queen. And so I had this idea to bring it down to another level with a deeper concept, possibly. And it's in a question form, but we can noodle on this because it's just a thought. But the question would be, what's in the invisible? What's in the invisible?
Ooh.
And the reason I ask what's in the invisible, and funny enough, I had written it down before you even talked about this story about, your friend's company that said the person was lazy. Because I think there's also invisibility in what people can, it started from the story with the truck and the Holland Tunnel. I was thinking there's invisible qualities in people that don't always get to be seen because of their position in the company or what the world has positioned them to be. Kids don't know as much as adults do. I mean, that's like a common thought that people would automatically think. I don't know. That was my idea. What's in the invisible? It's trying to search for the things that wouldn't be right on the surface.
Wow, I think that's genius. That's genius. And it's spot on. It's genius. So thank you for that, Cathey.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
I just wonder, because it could be the starting conversation. I feel like it could be the spark for this idea, Margarita. I don't know, Mark, give me your thoughts on this, but I feel like she could come in and immediately be like, yeah, okay, 360, everybody gets that. People talk about that a lot. I want Margarita to have her own thing. And I feel like, Margarita, you're a very thoughtful person to be on their website looking for facts and to be looking for real people and stock photography. It makes me understand who you are as a person, and you care about those details, and you're looking for every little facet. So why don't you bring that awareness to them immediately and say, hey, let's talk about what's in the invisible.
Ooh,
What is the company doing really for you? It could be so many facets. I'm just going to name a couple. Maybe we could all come up with some. What's the company doing for you that you've kind of taken for granted because it just seems invisible, like it's just kind of expected? What is the invisible creativity or power that each person is bringing to the team or to the organization? What's the invisible power of the organization to the world that maybe we're forgetting in our marketing even? I mean, as a marketer, I can even take it to that, right? There's a lot of invisible things I think we could uncover, and I think it would be a fun conversation to start with.
That gives me the chills.
Oh, yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Mark, what do you think?
You just blew my mind. I'm telling you, you just blew my mind with that, because it's weird, but it's such an empowering question, right? Because so many people struggle with some aspect of themselves that feels unseen, right? You don't know what I can do yet. So one, from an employee, from an employer perspective, what are you doing to find out what those invisible qualities are? From an employee perspective, what are you doing to share what those invisible qualities are, right? So I like that because it empowers both sides.
Yeah.
And what stood out to me also, Cathey, is then there's that bridge then. And I don't know how intentional you were about it, but it really stood out to me. It's not only what the employee, what that invisible quality is with the employee, or maybe even with the employer, but what's that invisible quality in the organization and in the team that we've put together that could just, escalate things even further. So I really like that question, that concept. You are the queen, all hail.
We got two queens in the room, Mark. What are you going to do?
Yes.
Well, we got a king in the room as well, so no worries, Mark.
I appreciate that. I
I love you too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
appreciate that.
Mark, I love, actually, one of the things that I think you're really great at is asking those questions. That's why I wanted to hear what questions, like you're so great at asking people questions and getting to the heart of a matter, which is, your job as a coach, right? And so you're so good at it. But this question, I think, could evoke a lot of great conversation and spark some awareness. I love that you said that too, Mark. There's a lot of people feel unseen. You know how sometimes in a friend group, your friends might see you in a certain way, but then your family sees you in another way. And then, at work, people see you in another way. And then, if you play sports, people see you in another way. And it's just like, sometimes it can make you feel really unseen. You're like, but I'm actually really smart too. I'm not just, not just good at sports, or I'm not just good at this, or, and so I love that too. It's very empowering to think about the things that we even believe about ourselves that might be invisible. So
And go ahead, Mom. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead, but I'm gonna hold on to this thought. Go ahead.
Okay. You made such a good point, Cathey, about in the family dynamic, because, for example, I'm number 4 in the kids. I'm number 4, and I always felt like, I wanted to stand out in something, because by the time you get to number 4, right, it's kind of, so you want to stand up in something. I'm always like constantly looking for attention, right?
Yeah.
So years later, I become a public speaker, but the difference was that I didn't become a public speaker for the attention. I became a public speaker because of how it has the power to change lives, right? And in the beginning, I can admit, yes, I like the idea, because as a panic attack sufferer, in the beginning, I would speak and then get sick, right? but I like the idea of that I was able to change lives, right? Yeah. And when my family saw that I became a public speaker, they couldn't believe it, because I was always the quiet one. I was always in the corner reading books. And they cannot believe the difference now as compared to when I was a kid, when I was staying in the corner reading books all the time.
They didn't see your invisible quality because you were so close to you,
No.
right? That's what I'm saying. Even I love that story, Margarita, because even in a family dynamic, you get painted in a certain way, and you're like, no, I can do this thing. I do it outside of the family all the time, but you get painted with a certain, canvas, and Yeah.
Yes.
Mark,
Yeah.
what were you going to say, holding that thought?
I've seen a lot of organizations do things where they're trying to get to know each other better, right? You know, one of the famous icebreakers I always like hearing, two truths and a lie, right?
Yep.
Two truths and a lie, right? And now there's these famous, some different companies have different names for it, but one company I'm thinking of calls it like their check-in question, right? Right at the beginning of the meeting, you'll ask some kind of trivial question. And yes, they're getting to know each other better, but it stops, right? It stops at sort of just being sort of a social connection. Whereas what you're saying here, Margarita and Cathey, is that this goes beyond the triviality of just a social connection. And by that, I just want to say, like, I value social connections, but this takes it to another level. So companies that might think, oh, we're getting to know our employees better by doing two truths and a lie. It's like, no. Now that you've learned what could be that trivial thing, how do we now use that trivial thing as a tool, right? So how does it now go beyond trivial and beyond social connection to a strength for the company, a strength for the employer, a strength for the employee? You know, Margarita, you talked about before when we talked that you're trying to get us to move from people being seen as transactional to transformational. And these questions at the beginning are going also from trivial to transformational. And that's why I like this, because it takes it to the next level.
Mark, I love that. And
Wow.
I love your alliteration, English teacher.
But I like that from transactional to transformational. And it makes a lot of sense on both sides of the fence.
Well, and trivial, and he also said trivial because yours
And
was
trivial, I wrote that
transactional,
down
right?
also.
Yeah, you said trivial. You said transactional, Margarita, which was good. And then Mark, you're right. It's like hearing about somebody that could be like a trivial thing. Like what if somebody's really good at music, but nobody knows? And then it just seems trivial, even to the person. It's like, oh, I've been doing outside of my work, I have a hobby of like playing the guitar. But what if that unique talent, what if they write the jingle for their company or something? What if they do something creative for their company that they had? And so it's like gathering all these nuggets of like what people could do. I have, that's the creative person in me thought about that when you were talking, Mark. It's
it makes me wonder, and I don't know if you've I can't think of the person's name right now. I know he's done a lot of work with Tony Robbins. His name, Dean Grazioso, I think it is. I heard him do a talk on 7 levels deep, right? Just asking all these questions to get a little bit deeper, to understand what your real why is. As we talk about this whole invisible, what you're invisible, I love that question. What's in the invisible? When somebody asks you a question at the beginning of a meeting, like, oh, what's the last movie that you saw that you really enjoyed? I've heard these questions at meetings.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we stop asking those questions, but how do we then take your 360-degree model, right? This whole concept of what's in the invisible, and how do you start asking or taking that question to the next level so that now you can find out that, no, it's not just I love Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
But if you ask me a little bit further, what is it that I like about Breakfast Club? What is it that I can relate to in the movie? What skill or what trait does that bring out in me? And now how can we apply that trait or that skill or that quality to what we do here? So I love the idea of now taking this whole concept of 360-degree model, what's in the invisible, and then taking something that people think they're doing to get to know each other and taking it a whole nother level deeper.
Yes, because when we're attracted to something, it's because there's a reason behind it. Either something we can learn from, or something that from the past that reminds us of a goal that we could achieve, right?
Yeah.
So anytime that, for example, my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies, and it still is Ferris Bueller's Day Off, right?
Yep.
But the reason why I love that movie so much is because, he has a goal, he takes the day off, he does whatever he wants. No
Crazy
matter
things
what
are
anybody,
happening.
no matter what anybody says, he just goes for it. And I think that's what resonates with people more than all the silly stuff that he did.
Yeah.
He got his friends in trouble and what, but it's just the fact that he had this goal. He took the day off and he was going to live life to the fullest all the way to the end, and he did. And isn't that what we all want, right? We want to live our life to the fullest extent, and we want to be able to say, I'm going to get this done. This is how I'm going to do it. Wow, I achieved the goal.
Yeah. Yep.
How do you take that same thing that you love about the movie, putting everything into it? How do you apply that to your business and role as a coach and a speaker?
That's a very good question. So, for example, using my 360-degree model, and I would say that Ferris Bueller is a silly, crazy way to apply it, right?
Yeah.
But a person who fully believes in who they are, what they're about, what their contribution is to the world, to society, to their family, right? And that's how you would take that. So part of the model is to look at yourself as there's a Spanish word called ganas, which means, the desire or the impetus to succeed, right? And part of it is a 5-step program that is great, is genius, affirmation, nurture, attitude, and steadfastness, right? So those are the 5 steps that I do. So are you looking at the genius in yourself? Are you affirming that genius? Are you nurturing that genius, right? Do you have the right attitude to continue it, and the steadfastness to continue the cycle so that it becomes successful? So I use that from both sides of the fence, right? So when you're looking at yourself as a whole person, right? And you're saying, okay, for example, myself, let's say I want to be a public speaker, right? I enjoy this. So I look at my genius and I say, okay, what is my strength as a public speaker? I'm an emotional connector, right? So that's my strength. I'm an emotional connector. Then how do I affirm that about myself? So I start looking at myself and all the accomplishments from being a panic attack sufferer up until where I am now. How do I nurture that? So I nurture that by participating in programs like this one, like being with you and Cathey.
Being on the show.
Looking at other public speakers and seeing how they connect with audiences, right? That's the way that I nurture myself, right? Then the proper attitude, whether the attitude that I have, am I serious about it? Do I pursue it? And then the steadfastness to continue, right? So that is the formula that I use also as part of the model.
Yeah, I love that. I love that too, because Margarita, when you were saying the Ferris Bueller, again, Mark, you're like, level 1 is like movie, funny, haha. But then when you broke it down a little bit, I heard level 2, I heard level 3, I heard level 4, right? I heard that here's somebody that's getting in all kinds of trouble, all these crazy things are happening, but he has a goal and he's being steadfast about it. So when you explain your genius model, I love that. I think you could tie, I didn't know about the genius model. I like that. So I think before this could be what is the invisible, I think could be like a preface to that, because I think if you just ask people immediately, like, what's your genius? I mean, people might be a little shy about it, but what's that invisible thing that it might be invisible to everybody else, and even invisible to you, because you just know it. You're good at this. You've been good at that your whole life. It's invisible to you. Right, Mark? I know. I was thinking about it. I was like, I mean, gosh, if somebody asked me what I was good at, I would be like, sports. I don't know, like being a coach, like it would, but really, what are the things that you're good at that would be kind of invisible even to yourself? Maybe that's the game we can play. We could play a game and say, we could all go around and say what our invisible would be.
the quality that no one knows.
Yeah, that thing that, and maybe people do know it now. I don't know. For instance, I'll give you mine. I'll tell you one that was invisible for a long time, not invisible anymore. But growing up, I didn't realize that creativity was its own brilliance. I did not recognize the power of creativity. I didn't really realize I was creative. I just looked at the rest of the people in my family who are engineers, math geniuses, and I was like, ooh, I'm just not the smart one. And that's how I painted myself for a long time. I did not. And then when I got older, I realized, oh my God, I'm creative. I do these things that my family can't do. And it seems really easy for me. And so I then understood, but it was invisible for more than half my life, that creativity was something that I had. And it was right there. So that's mine.
Wow, that's very interesting, right? Because as a kid, I always wanted to be a dancer, being in my family. My dad taught me how to dance on his feet, so it came natural. I wanted to be a dancer. My parents told me, no, that's not a real job. You need to get a job, the one that could support you, right? So then I was like, okay, I want to be an interior designer. No, that's not a real job, right? Okay. So I ended up in the corporate world. Right?
Yeah.
And I spent my years in the corporate world, but I still felt that empty space, right? Where I needed to use like creativity. Like, how am I going to use my creativity? Right?
Yeah.
And then when but I was always good with words. I was always good with words. I hated math. I'm sorry, I don't know if you're a math teacher, sorry.
No, English teacher.
Okay.
We're all words people here.
I always, I guess maybe I did not have the proper instruction, I would say, in math, but I was always a words person and I always spoke well. And people in my family always say, well, my God, you always speak well, you speak so well from when I was a kid. But I didn't see that creativity with words later on until I became a public speaker.
Yeah.
In my adult, look at all the years that it took.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, that's what I'm talking about. All right, Mark, what's yours? That's awesome, Margarita.
I'm going to stick along the same lines, and this is probably why we're all in this conversation together. I was a kid with a wild imagination as a kid. I was a kid with a wild imagination as a kid. That wasn't a great English teacher sentence.
We got that you were a kid, though.
Yeah.
Or maybe that you were saying that even for a kid, you had a wild imagination.
Well, I did, but as a kid, I often felt that was shunned upon. Right? That like, it's almost like just playing make-believe, right?
Yeah.
You're not living in the real world. Stop playing these silly games, like that imaginative play was definitely not something that I felt was valued as a kid. And so, it was almost like get real, right? Grow up and get real. And so I never saw that as some kind of an invisible strength. And it's very interesting now as a speaker and talking to people about, their ambitions. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm really encouraging people's imaginations.
Yeah.
Right? As a matter of fact, I remember saying to a group of people once, I go, anything that's ever been accomplished started out as a figment of somebody's imagination.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so, yeah, but I would say that there are people that I've worked with, maybe even people that I work with now, who probably have no idea how imaginative I can actually be.
Mark, I know some of your stories. Thinking you can fly, and I know some of your stories. Yeah.
So I'm going to show you something that I just drew as Mark was speaking. It's I don't know if you can see it. So it's a circle. It says me in the center. It says 60. I am complete.
Yeah. I love that. I love that, Margarita. I love maybe too, the more we kind of pick at this, and we're talking about things that might even be invisible to ourselves, it would be really fun. I could see, I can envision you doing a workshop and a training. And again, you're starting here because this is the spark and the fire that you ignite in everybody. And you give people some really good maybe somebody, a really famous example of something that was created. I always love these fun things that, hearing about something wacky that got created, and it might have been for another reason, or, but it's what you're saying, Marc, right? It's like, it's something started in somebody's head, and it might have ended up somewhere else. And so that's really creative. But I think if you ask a lot of people, level 1, like what's invisible within you, you might get a couple answers, but you're really looking for that level 7. You're looking for that thing. And so you have to kind of draw it out of a Margarita. It's more than just the question. The question is just to say that, hey, it's invisible. It's there, it's invisible, and it's probably invisible to you too. And so if it's invisible to you, it's definitely invisible to the world. And some of it might not be. There might be levels of that, right? There might be things that people don't see you as, and you see it, but other people don't see it in you, or, you don't feel seen for something. But I think there's a lot to say in that, Marc, of this thing that you're talking about, of having something be invisible to yourself too. Not understanding the power of what it was, but the power of your imagination, Margarita, the power of your creativity and the things that you wanted to do and how you might have felt empty. But I see you as somebody, even though you might not be dancing for a living, you're dancing for a living, like in a different way, right? Like you are, though. Because you get to dance with people and you're playing with their, you're not playing, but you're getting to work with people with important things in life. So in some ways you're getting to dance with people's emotions and how they come to work, and you get to play around with that in that way. And to me, that's exciting. You found a way to do it without the literal, like, I'm a dancer for a living.
That's interesting. Dancing for a living, but I am dancing for a living.
You're dancing for a living. It's a dance. I think it's a dance.
I love that. I think it's true that dancing with words, right? Using the words.
Yeah, definitely dancing with words, and with positions and visibility. There's a lot of things I think you're dancing with. Yeah,
and it's interesting about dance, because in dance, especially in Latin dance, the man leads.
Yeah.
You have to follow. Yeah. But if something messes up, it's the man's fault, because he's supposed to be a good lead.
Yeah.
So it's not the woman that messes up, it's the man that messes up. Right?
Yeah.
So related to the corporate world, right? Where the corporation is the leader and the employees are the followers, right? If the employer is not doing what they're supposed to do, well, the employee cannot dance at the same dance, right? Yeah.
See, we got another analogy for, I love that. That's a great analogy.
Like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, right? Ginger did everything Fred did backwards.
Yep.
Right? So it's
I love it. I love that.
Right? She did everything he did.
Yeah.
Just backwards. In fact, it was even harder for her, but he's leading her, but she had to do everything backwards.
Although I wonder, I don't know my Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers anthology of information.
Yes.
But I wonder in that famous pairing, what were some of the things that he was not aware of? She knew about dance, or that she could add to dance, that he then discovered, that made them as a dancing duo so iconic. And that's how I tie it back to this whole metaphor and this whole idea of employee. Yes, as the employer, I might be leading the dance, but part of that lead is trying to figure out what I don't know about you and what you might not know about yourself yet.
The invisible,
the invisible factor, right? As Cathey was talking about, the invisible factor. So and I think
that's a part of the 360, right?
Yes.
Because I can't be this whole person if there's an invisible part that has not been seen yet.
That's right. That's right. And we're all meant to be seen. Right? We're all meant to be seen, whatever strength that happens to be, we're all meant to be seen. And it's that sense of not being seen that causes half the problems that we have in the world right now.
Yeah,
That
agree.
people are not being seen, whether it is in corporate setting, whether it's countries against countries, within families, that part of not being seen causes a lot of anger, right? Because people want to be seen. They want to know that there was a show in Oprah when Maya Angelou used to say that, do you smile and your eyes sparkle when you see your kid, right? So people want to make sure that they're seen and that they're valued. And I think the key word is valued.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People want to be seen and they want to be valued, right? They want to know that their contribution matters.
Yeah.
They want to know that their contribution matters. And I think that when people feel that they don't matter, that's when they tend to slide. Because they say, if I don't matter, I'll just come here and work and get my paycheck. Yeah, we've all heard, sorry, Mark, of paycheck teachers.
Yeah.
And teachers that they come, they're just there.
They're there for the check.
They're there for the check. They put the kid. My one of my cousins was a kindergarten teacher, and she would put them when she wanted to take a nap. She would put all the kids to take a nap so she could take a nap.
Wow.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
She was a paycheck teacher. She had reached her tenure, and she just wanted to retire. But what was that contributing to those kids?
Mhm.
What were those kids being cheated on?
Yeah.
Because she wanted to take it out.
Well, I don't know, Margarita, but funny story. We used to have to I have a vivid memory of this. It's one of my very few memories from kindergarten, but we used to have to bring our own little rug, and we would have to do nap time. And as an adult, nap time is my favorite time. So I don't know. Maybe my kindergarten teacher was also wanting to take a nap, but it definitely taught me a good thing in life. I was like, we need naps more.
But I tell you, I'm enjoying this conversation very much because I'm learning to be more in depth with this idea of 360-degree model and looking at invisibility factors, transformation factors. I mean, you two have brought this to a whole new level for me. This is amazing. This is
Wow.
So happy to
We
hear that.
appreciate
Margaret. Yeah, really, that Mark and I love having these conversations for that reason, right? We always call this an idea conversation. Sometimes it sounds weird to us that we're going to be on a call with somebody and we're going to coach, quote unquote, coach them. I mean, great coaches ask great questions, get great answers because it's already inside of people, right? And so for me, I love having these conversations because we never know where it's going to go. We're just three people that have great ideas that get to talk about them. But Margarita, I have to say, I really love this as a way to elevate your 360, because I think it's something I feel like people will get really excited about that. People get very excited to know, to explore something that might be kind of invisible. And I think corporations would be excited about that. I mean, I just feel like it might be a good tool. So I love this.
Yeah, and to open up in that way, what is your invisible quality? If I have a group of employees, what is your invisible quality that you would like everyone to know?
Yeah.
That you would like everyone to know. And how does that invisible quality contribute to you as an employee? Right? How does it contribute to your work? How does it contribute to the work? I mean, many people, when they start working for an organization, they realize that they're meant to be entrepreneurs instead. Like they're not meant to, I have many of my friends who became entrepreneurs because they realized that they were meant to be bosses and they weren't meant to work for someone else because they felt that their creativity was stifled.
Yeah.
And so that's a reality too that comes as an employee saying, you know what, I have my own ideas. I'm going to branch out on my own and I'm going to make things happen for myself. So sometimes it's that reality, and that's good because that person realizes I can't contribute to this company, but I can contribute to the world by doing what I love.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
as opposed to being stifled and being stuck. So that's a person who's looking at themselves as a 360-degree entity and says, you know what? I'm going to branch out on my own and see what I can do. Yeah, there are some people that say, okay, no, I'm going to stay in this company because I see that it aligns with my values, and then I can take it from there. So some people are meant to be entrepreneurs. Some people are meant to be employees, managers that go up the ranks. And maybe sometimes at that point, they decide to branch out on their own too. You
Yeah.
know, they glean from their employer everything they need to know, and then they say, you know what? I can do this for myself, and off they go. Right?
Yeah.
So
And probably
again,
the sooner-
right, so then
the sooner the better.
Becoming a 360-degree person means that you look at every single part of yourself and you say, okay, this is who I am and this is what I'm meant to do and how I'm going to contribute to the world.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's probably
Powerful.
better too, Margarita, if it's sooner, right? Like in an area where like you have people that might be in those fringes of like, I should probably be out on my own, but I never recognized it. I was looking for the security. It probably benefits both the employee and the employer if they recognize that they have a talent or a creativity or a skill that's untapped and they want to go out and do it on their own, and they don't feel that connected to the company. Probably having the completely disengage is probably best for everybody too, right?
Yes, I mean, when you think that 75% of employees nationally are disengaged, that means that the 25% are carrying the load.
Yeah, yeah,
Think
yeah.
about that one more.
Oh,
25% is carrying the load nationwide, and you know, it's a huge problem. So it's not fair for that 25% that is carrying the load if the 75% are disengaged.
Yeah.
So many of those 75% are entrepreneurs
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
that need to branch out on their own so they can realize their whole 360 reality.
mm-hmm.
So they could be
Powerful. I got to tell you, if you've written down anything today, just in case you missed this phrase that you said, I wrote it down. We are all meant to be seen. And I heard you say that, Margaret, and I think that's such a powerful thing, because one of the things that I see from Cathey all the time is she really is. Cathey, you really are the queen of concepts. And to bring out that concept here and to then inspire Margarita to then say, we're all meant to be seen, takes, again, this whole transactional world that we live in, and it starts tapping into people as individuals, right? And that need to be seen. And we all want to be seen, and we all want to figure out what can be seen about us. But the other word, Margarita, that, and you've stressed this before, and I want to stress it again, is value. Because one thing to see something in myself, it's one thing for me to see something in others. It's another thing to value it, which means that I'm now acknowledging that trait or that quality, and now I'm figuring out how to use it to its greatest value, not only for you as an individual or an employee or employer, but also as a company or organization. Margarita, you are awesome. And I got to tell you, you're awesome for so many reasons, but you're even awesome because for everybody who's watching, we start to wrap up this conversation by saying, and Margarita, how has this whole thing evolved for you? What has resonated? And I caught it. I'm sure Cathey caught it. You already answered that question.
She did.
So I love it. I love that you gained something from this conversation. And I just want you to know that as somebody who works with organizations, I have gained a lot from this. And I think there are plenty of people who are watching and those who will tell others who need to watch how much value they will get from understanding what's there invisible. So Margarita, Now that you've already answered the question, what have you gotten out of this? Tell our audience, tell everybody who's watching, tell everybody who's invisible to the world and needs to be seen. How can they find you? How can they learn more about this 360-degree model for employees and employers? And how can they learn from you to find value in their invisible? How do they find you, Margarita?
Go to estradaprospeaker.com, and then you will see all my 3 models there, the 360-degree granular level living, 360-degree employer-employee model, and 360-degree presentation model as well. So this whole 360-degree is part of my life. The reason why it's important to see yourself as a whole, complete person. Each one of us carries a hole within our hearts that needs to be fulfilled. Sometimes other people can fulfill it, but most of the time it's because we need the world to see it. And so it is important for you to show the world your magnificence, who you are, what you're about, why you bring value to the world, whether it is in your home life, in your personal life, in your social life. Your being seen is a contribution to our world and to our planet. And you not being seen denies us of the opportunity to find out who you are and how you can enrich us, right? 360-degree. I give to you, you give to me, and the circle continues. So our goal, the 3 of us here, our goal as the Trinity, right? We're here with the Trinity here. We're the Trinity. So we're here to ensure that you see yourself in this model. Put yourself, when you're home, draw yourself in the middle, put me, and put a circle around yourself and say 360 degrees. This is who I am. If you want to connect with me, go to estradaprospeaker.com. You will find all the details there. You can also email me at margarita@estradaprospeaker.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Margarita. We see you. You were meant to be seen. And for everybody who's watching, you were meant to be seen too. And for anybody who's watching who knows somebody who should have one of these idea conversations with Cathey and I, we see you. And if we don't see you, we want to see you. So go to our website. It's about to go down. Show Marc, M-A-R-C, Cathey, C-A-T-H-E-Y.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure you spell it right so we can get that conversation right. Thank you so much, Margarita. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Continue to be seen and continue to see us each and every time on It's About to Go Down.
Wow.